Hello, this is the training and demonstration video for the OVW THA, or Transitional Housing Assistance, template of EmpowerDB. This video assumes that you've already gone to empowerdb.com, clicked on join, and then filled out this form to create your version of EmpowerDB that matches the OVW THA template from that list. This video will be showing you the free version, and you could upgrade at any time to any of these other versions plans as well. Okay, so let's get started. Once you've got that all filled out and you're back to, you're signed into the system and you followed all the directions on how to do that, you will be here. Before we get started, I just want to show you how to add in new users to your account. You can add in as many users as you want. An administrator can go to the staff list from the homepage and click Add New Staff on the top. And you would fill out this form, pretty self-explanatory stuff, add new staff, and then that user can then sign in with their username and password. That's all you need to do to add in new users. Okay, so now let's talk about how to add in activities into the database. We'll start with that first. Activities is well, we define things like adding in services. The THA report has resources and also groups. Again, those are all EmpowerDB wording for things. You won't necessarily see it categorized into those three sections on the actual OVW report. So right here on the homepage is the Add Activities module, and it's here on the homepage because we find this is the information that people enter in most out of everything. You have so many, there's only so many times you add in a new client into the system, but you provide those clients with lots and lots of services throughout their time through your organization. So we would say, okay, I provided a service today for Sandra. We just type in her name. I'm going to show you how to add in brand new people into the system later. But this, lets us pick existing clients. We would select which date we entered this activities for. So it's defaulting to today's date, but let's say, oh, this actually happened Friday. I forgot to put it in. And here's where we can say what service was done. So you should be familiar with this list of services. This should match the OVW reports list of services. So we can say, okay, we did employment counseling. And then if you did more than one service type in the same session, you would press this plus button and say, well, we also did job training. And you can keep pressing that plus button as many times as you wanted to put in all the different service types that were done during that session. We could also add in a resource. So maybe we gave them material assistance for $700. And again, just like the other, you can press this plus button and add in other types of things as well. And then there's a notes field here. This doesn't do anything for the OVW report. It's just here if you think this is something that's helpful for you to have as an organization of keeping track of things that were done. So we could say like, met with Sandra about blah, 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 and gave her some assistance out of general funds. Okay, so you put whatever you want in there, or you put nothing in there. It's up to you. Add activities, and they're in. Let's say we want to add in a group. Click on groups. Say, okay, what date? Again, it's defaulting to today. Say which support group you did, just the regular support group. And then we go through and add in all the names. So again, the notes field here, notes about the group, only if it's helpful for you to have this be attached to the whole group entry. You don't have to fill that in, it doesn't get used for anything on the report. Add activities. So that's how to add in new activities into the system. Let's take a look at how to view those activities after we've already put them in. So on the top left of every page in EmpowerDB is this calendar icon. And we can click there and we can see this calendar view of all the activities that we just put in. So here's the couple things that we've just done, plus some other things that I've put in there as tests previously. Okay, so from here we can mouse over something, edit it, change something about the activity. We can also mouse over something and delete something that we've just done. We can also say, oh, I know I did something on September 22nd. Click on that date and say, okay, I saw Marisol and we did housing advocacy, add activities, and that gets added there to that date. So you can do a lot in this calendar view. You can also switch this to an outline view. And this is a, more of just an outline view of all the things that you've done across the organization. You can also switch this to say, show me only one particular client. And this shows us the client's view. And there's a quicker way to get to this view. I'll show you that later, but this could also be really helpful for you to know that it exists as well. Subscribers of our multi-use plan are able to really precisely define permission and visibility settings. So if you have certain things that you don't want, that you want certain staff to put into the database, but other staff to not be able to see, those are all things that we handle all the time, and we can definitely help get those things set up for you if you subscribe to our multi-use plan. And then just wanted to make sure you knew that, the things that you see here are built to match exactly the OVW report. EmpowerDB was created to do so much more than just help you out with one funder report. So we can add other types of fields in here and, time spent, all these different things that we can add if you would like to subscribe to our multi-use plan. Okay, so that's adding in activities. Now let's go through the process of adding in a brand new client. So here on the home page, we can add a client and then we can put in their name. So here's my fake name I keep putting in. As you put in this name, check this box on the top right over here. If you're putting in somebody who has a name that's very similar to somebody else, either exactly or very similar to somebody else who's in the system, you'll be notified about it here. And you can choose to either go to the record and continue it, or you can keep adding this new client if it is just a coincidental same kind of name. Okay, so we're putting in the name, and I also just want to remind you that all the data that you put into EmpowerDB is encrypted with a key that only you have. So in terms of confidentiality, like even EmpowerDB staff, we can't read the names that you put in the system. We can't disclose those names in a subpoena or anything like that. So hopefully you feel safe putting in those names. And then you just get a bunch of these questions. These questions you should really all be pretty familiar with for the OVW report. And I'll kind of just go through the ones that you might not be familiar with or might look a little bit different than you might be expecting. So dependents, we want to say they have two dependents. And here we can start putting in some child names like this, and say this is a female. We'll say this is a child. And we'll say this. And we'll do that. Okay, so the THA report looks for a lot more information than this on the children, and I'll show you in a moment how to put in the full set of information on the children that are served through your program. What this is trying to do right now is just to get like a basic overview of just a tiny bit of information about who these children are so that we can start the record off, and then we'll be able to continue with them later. Okay, the next bit that's really important are these move in and move outs. So we can say they moved in actually last week on Monday. And we also need to select the housing unit. So this is a list where you can list out every single one of your different housing units if you have different units. If you don't have different units or you don't want to bother with that, you can just keep this at this one generic transitional housing unit choice. I'll show you at the end of the video how to modify that list if you do have multiple housing units that you want to categorize them by. And then let's say they moved in on this date. And now I want to talk to you about the very common situation of, let's say somebody moved out that Thursday. We say, wait, why did they move out? You do your best. It was a standard exit, and here's all the questions that the THA report expects to have answered when people move out. But now let's say they've moved back in again. You know, things happen like that. So we can say include additional move in, and we'll say the housing unit was this, and they moved in again today. All right, so you can have as many move in and move out entries as you want for this client, and you would just keep adding in more and more, saying include additional move in like that. All right, a very similar situation happens. I'll just jump ahead in this incidence point in time. So this would be like, let's say somebody discloses to you domestic violence today by a current spouse or intimate partner, and then they disclose sexual assault to you again, like months from now. You can say it includes additional incident and say sexual assault, and this time select, dating relationship. The OVW report is only going to look at their latest primary victimization to decide where they fall in this section, but it could take a look at the different relationship to offenders because that report does allow multiple relationships to offenders. And the other reason why we have people collect this information in this way is because it just, if you do choose to upgrade, it's to a multi-use plan and start tracking lots of other fields in here that aren't specific to the OVW THA report, then you've already got it set up in a way that's beneficial to that, because every incident you want to have, relationship type incident, you want to have different fields about like who the abuser is and what happened and on all these things. So it's very helpful, we find, to have the ability to kind of classify different incidents into these different incident point in time blocks of information that you can repeat if needed. It's very possible that you might really never use this and just always kind of say domestic violence, here's the relationship, and then be done. Okay, let's scroll back up, and I just want to talk about one quick thing here. So if you know somebody's birthday, you can enter that in, and the system will always know their age from that. And the system will always know which age category to put this client into for the report whenever you choose to run the report. If you don't know somebody's age, somebody's exact birthday, you can estimate their age, or you can just say, I have no idea what their age is, which probably isn't the case for people in your transitional housing world. But you can also just estimate their age and say, okay, I think they're about 25 years old. And the reason why we have every single year here as an estimate is to make it so that as the years go by, the system is able to accurately put this person into whatever age range category they might age into. Which means if I were to set this person's age as 25, save the record, come back 2 years later, it would show them as being approximately 27 years old instead. So this is just very helpful to have this be individual ages, even though it kind of looks maybe a little bit weird to estimate an age so precisely. All right, and all these questions here, these are easy peasy questions. We're just going to say all no to all those. We've already answered that. And as we scroll down to the bottom of this form, we see the add initial activities section again. This works just the same as it did on the home page. So we can say, on the intake with the person, we did crisis intervention, and I gave them some relocation expenses for $300. Okay, add a new client. They're in. So now when I go to the home page or anywhere else in the database, I can mouse over on this lookup box and type in this person's name and go to the record. I can also go to this person's record based off of their client ID number, and their client ID number is on, when you look them up, it's like right below their name right there. So I could also have just gone to client number 14 and go to Elizabeth Matthews' record like that. And finally, I just want to show you, and by the way, so let's say you're back at this record, you can come through here and change any of the things that you answered before, update them, add in new stuff, add like that. You can also add new activities via this link, and that brings the same window up that we've been looking at previously. And here's that link where we can view their activities outline. So this takes us straight to this client's activities outline that shows us everything that they've been doing in the organization for across all users. Okay, let's take a look at the program list view. So if we go on the home page and we click on this program list, like we want to look at our list of clients right here, we see, should have defaulted to current residents. We see here is Elizabeth, who we just added to the system, and she's got a move-in date of this, and she has 2 children, and their names are in light gray. Now, what that means is it means the system knows those children exist, but it doesn't have a record of them being moved in at this time. So maybe that's true. Maybe Elizabeth has 2 children and they're just not coming with her for one reason or another, and that's fine. You can leave them as grayed out, but it also is a good indication to be like, I got to do some data entry. We're going to click on that child's name, and we're going to go through and move them in and do all the things that we need to do to fill out their information. So this is going to be a very similar form to what you saw for adults, but this time it's just slightly different list of questions that are only applicable to children. So we'll save changes and have them moved in for right now. We'll go back to our program list view. We can see that Margaret moved in on this date, and Elliot is still needing to be moved in, and we'll just leave it at that for now. Okay, so that is really all there is to entering in data into the database. You just kind of go through and you add in the clients like I showed you, add in the activities, you look at this program list to make sure everything is looking the way it should and children are moved in. And once you've done that, you're really ready to run the report. So let's go do that now. So I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to click on the reports link. And right at the top, here's our THA report. And we can set the reporting period to be this and this and this. Continue. Okay, so at the top of the report, it's just giving you a little bit of explanation about how the system is generating the different important sets of clients that are in your system. It's probably really obvious, all these things, but for some of the implementations that we set up for people, it's a little bit weirder, and we just like to have it be listed out there. And then as we scroll through, these are the report results. So this should all look very familiar to what you're used to seeing in section D of the OVW report. We've got the number of served and all that. Every time there's a number, we can click on that number and we can see who makes up that number. And that helps us make sure that these numbers are accurate. All right, so as we scroll through, again, everything you should be used to seeing, very used to whatever this is. And you see these numbers, and you would want to pay especially attention to these numbers that has like this exclamation point. So this means that Margaret is unknown. We don't have an answer for their race, and so we got to have that filled in before we submit that to the OVW. Really, that's it. Here's all your results, just like that. Click of a button. You can go through. See the list of these bed nights. They moved in, moved out that day. These were the number of nights in between. Give you some context about how it got the number 54. Bada bing, bada boom. Transfer all these numbers into your report format. Go do something else more important. Saving the world. Okay. Now I'm going to go through how to do some extra administrative stuff that could be helpful to you. This won't apply to everybody. If you feel like you're all set, feel free to close this video. But otherwise, let's take a look at how to, I told you could change that room unit list. As we were adding in a client, we have this just one transitional housing unit drop down here. We can change that by going to database administration, programs, clicking on our one program that we've been assigned, which, by the way, you can change the name of this program to be something that meets, this is just generically named, but you can change this to be whatever your organization calls your transitional housing program. And then when you scroll down, we see this housing unit list. So you could say something like Oak Street transitional housing, Maple Street transitional housing. You know, whatever you guys do to categorize people in these different set residential units, you would do it like that. I also know that many of you have programs where there's no concrete transitional housing place. You kind of take what you can get through, you know, different housing vouchers and things like that. So if that's the case, you probably just want to leave it as that one generic room unit selection. But this choice is there for you if you need it. I also want to let you know how to add in multiple contracts. So if you have multiple OVW THA contracts, all you have to do is go into this program section, click add a new program, and then put in the name of your new contract, whatever your other contract is. Once you do that, and you fill out all the forms and set which users can see it, once you do that, whenever you're adding in a new activity, you have to say which one of the two contracts that activity is for. So this will turn into a drop-down that you can select. And then, you know, other things like when you go to run the report, you'll be able to select multiple contracts from this thing to say which report you want, which contract you want to run the report for, and things like that. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you is you've got this list of services here, but let's say you do lots of different types of one thing or another. I can't even think of an example. What we can do, we can add in and kind of modify this list to represent the different types of things that you do. And then those different types of things can then be mapped to OVW's list of things. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to database administration, and then we're going to go to service types. So we can add a new service type up here, and then I'm going to say I saw children's activities. So so let's say you want to really specify the difference between children's activity art time and children's activity science time. Okay, so you can create this this children's activity entry here, and then count that on the OVW THA report as children's activities, and then we can add that service type into the system here. So now, anytime somebody goes into the system and adds in that they did children's activity with somebody, that will show up on the THA report as just children's activities. Okay, so it's a way to kind of expand the things that you do, but still report to THA, to OVW, the things that they really want to know to have done. That can be done the same thing through your resources, so you can kind of expand on which types of material assistance you're providing people by adding in new resource types. Or you can expand on your list of groups. So let's say you do an English support group and your a Spanish support group. You can change this one to be English support group, and then add in a new one for Spanish support group. Say yes, this counts for an OVW report. Save changes, and now you've got two different groups. You can make however many groups as you want, and again, no matter what you select in the actual adding in here, it's going to feed in and be counted on the OVW report as just their support group. Okay, that is really all the admin stuff I can think to show you. If you have further questions, you can try us in the database support section here. Again, if you have a free service, you'll be pretty limited on the kinds of things that you can ask us about. You can either tell us that you think you've found some place where the system is getting something wrong, and we're going to jump right away to try to fix that because that's really important to us. But otherwise, we're happy to talk to you about upgrading and receiving full support from us in other ways, and we really want to support you if in that way if you're interested. But otherwise, the free service kind of can't do the as close to one-on-one support as you might do with the paid service. You can also take a look at things in this database documentation section. For example, this article on deleting and merging clients might be helpful to you. And there'll be other stuff in here that might be helpful to you as well. Okay, so I hope this video was really helpful to you. Again, just remember that EmpowerDB can do so much more than what I've just shown you here. So we're really happy to talk to you about that if you would like. But we're also equally as happy that if you're using this for free and it gives you what you need and you're able to submit your data to your funder and get your money, we're just so happy to provide that as a free service as well. So thank you again, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye.